Hello world. Alright, finally, we've got the technology to work, and this is me, Ben Jax, doing a takeover of David Cooper's Instagram. I'm just going to start the day because I just woke up, showing you a few things that I do in the morning and throughout the day, and then later on I'll take you through a bit of a warm-up. Alright, thanks for joining, and I'll see you soon. Well, hey guys. It's important to start the day with a healthy breakfast, and like a lot of the world during isolation, I've been making some really good sourdoughs. So I've got a loaf of wholemeal that's just about ready to come out of the oven. Let's see what it looks like. Oh yeah, that looks pretty tasty. So I'm going to serve that up for a bit of breakfast, make a coffee, and I'll get back to you again later. Thanks. And of course, the next thing we need is a good coffee. So I'm going to make a nice coffee here, and let's see what it turns out like. Looking good, making the right sounds. Oh yeah. Oh, that's looking very fine, very fine. So that's what I call a warm-up. Alrighty. Yummo. Okay, I'm going to eat that bread and drink that coffee, and I'll get back to you with another little update from Sydney later on. Bye guys. Hey guys, here I am in a local park in the area I live in Sydney, which is about 6 kilometres from the Opera House from downtown Sydney. It's a pretty windy day today, but this gives you a good idea of just what it's like here in social isolation. This park is usually really busy, and you can see there's really not many people around. A few people have come out to enjoy a bit of sunshine. Beautiful day, despite the wind, and the playground in the distance is all taped up. No children are allowed to play on it. There's still a rule here in Sydney that no more than 2 people are allowed to congregate in open spaces at any time. And the restrictions are just being eased this afternoon so that you can have 2 people in your house. So teaching is allowed again, for example. But as you can see, not many people out. Crazy time in the world. Hi guys, sorry about the really cheesy opening to my takeover of David's Instagram account. Just trying to get the camera organised there. Alright, so I'm sure a lot of you people have no idea who I am and why I'm taking over David's Instagram account. My name is Ben Jax, I'm Principal Horn of Sydney Symphony Orchestra, and I've known Dave for quite a while. We first met years ago when he came and played in Sydney as part of the YouTube Symphony Orchestra. And he was very young and fresh-faced and super keen, and we got along really well straight away. And so it's a real pleasure for me to take over his account. I've done a few little videos today from Sydney, from my kitchen and from around the streets. And now I'm going to do a little warm-up class for you guys. For any students that are watching, this is just a brief introduction to what I do as a warm-up and what I've developed over many years. So I just want to give a bit of a talk about horn playing in Australia, first of all. Horn playing has got a rich tradition in our country, and this is probably best demonstrated, of course, by Barry Tuckwell, who sadly died earlier this year. I'm sure everybody here certainly knows of Mr. Tuckwell. He was a big influence on me and a lot of horn players around the country. He was a very funny man, very witty, and had an evil, witty sense of humour, that's for sure. He was taught by a guy called Alan Mann, who was kind of the godfather of horn playing in Australia. He taught also a very famous horn player called Hector MacDonald, who is principal horn until very recently of Vienna Symphonica, and also a teacher of many of us here in Australia. I've also got over here a fantastic old horn that was given to me by the previous principal horn of the Sydney Symphony Orchestra called Clary Miller. And this is a really old Italian horn. You can see it's like a Schmidt horn with a piston valve. This is what the entire Sydney Symphony horn section played on in the 50s. So Barry Tuckwell played on one of these as well when he was 17 as the associate principal horn of Sydney Symphony Orchestra, which is pretty cool. All right, so let's get started. Warm up. My day's just kind of started, so I've kind of broken it up into 5 different sections. First of all, we're going to do just simple breathing and buzzing. I like to set the metronome to crotchet equals 60 or quarter note equals 60 for those of us that aren't American, for the Americans and other people out there. Okay, so we really want to make sure that we're opening our lungs up, getting everything working really well, and that we're activating all the oxygen in our blood and getting our brain to work first thing in the day. So a nice simple exercise that I like to do is we breathe in for 4 seconds, out for 4, in for 4, out for 4, and then in for 3, out for 3, in for 3, out for 3, in for 2, out for 2, in for 2, out for 2, in for 1, out for 1, and we're going to do that 4 or 5 times. So please feel free to join in whilst I'm doing this exercise. The aim of this exercise is to think of your lungs being like a bellows or a piano accordion. They never want to be fully full and they never want to be fully empty. So they always want to be moving. So you want to really plan your breaths so that you're always very elastic, always liquid, always moving. Okay, here we go. 3, 4. All right, that's good. I feel nice and dizzy. And that really just gets everything moving first thing in the morning. Now, as I mentioned before, Barry Tuckwell. He was always a big exponent of doing free buzzing. Free buzzing, of course, is buzzing without a mouthpiece. And he told me many times that if he was ever feeling unsure of what was going on with his chops, he would do free buzzing and he would make for him, individually, what was his ideal shape. Now, we notice that when we free buzz, our chins are always flat and the corners are supporting what's going on in the middle, which is perfect. So let's just do a few free buzzing things. Okay, never sounds fantastic, but it does make the great shape. So then we put that onto the mouthpiece. Feel free to buzz that back. Great, so after the first few buzzes, what we like to do then is to really try and make it sound as lyrical as possible. Those first few I was sounding a little bit notey for my taste, so now I'm going to really try and make it a little bit more shape orientated. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, and so forth, so that you really start to warm your chops up. When that starts to feel really good, we move on to the next part of the warm-up, and that is some easy flow exercises. So all of these ones I like to do in the middle register. The ones that I like to do are very much based on... The ones I like to do are based very much on the stamp trumpet patterns. So I'm going to start on an E, so a concert A. And then what I like to do is do some flutter tonguing and a very simple arpeggio at the end of that. And then we're going to go just up chromatically. And then maybe down to E flat. Feel free to join in with me if you want, if anybody's playing. I know it's late in the Northern Hemisphere. For my friends in Australia or in Asia, then yes, join in. All right, and then we're going to go down chromatically. Way just to wake the chops up first thing in the morning. All right, so I like to do that down all the way to F sharp below middle C, and try and do F fingerings for all the way down, especially for your arpeggio, so that they're all on the one fingering. Okay, so moving on to the next part of our warm-up, and that is the most important part, long tones. I once heard long tones described as long-term deposits in your bank of life. And I think that's very, very apt. It's a really important thing to make sure that you are playing lyrically and that you're getting lots of resonance in your sound and that you're really working on keeping a really good quality sound from the bottom register all the way to the top. So again, with this exercise, I put the metronome on 60 and we start on F below middle C, and just work through it very slowly. So we start on an F, hold that for 4 beats, and then move up to an F sharp, go up chromatically, and then hold that F sharp for 6 beats. With a slight crescendo, we want to make the change of note as smooth as possible. 2, Good. Okay, and then we're going to go up now chromatically, so G to G sharp, 2, 3. And up chromatically, 2. It's important that you really try and make this sound as resonant as possible. Always going for an extremely vocal quality in your playing. B to C, 2, 3. Terrific. And we keep going all the way up until we get to B to C above middle C. Now when we get to C above middle C, I like to do arpeggios down. So on the end of 3, we do 8th note arpeggios all the way down to low C. 2. Always finishing in a low register. because then as we work through the high register, you're never going to hurt yourself too much. Now when we play the low register, take a big breath and then try and go all the way down to pedal C. This probably will not work for me. Not bad. And then we go up chromatically from there. So C sharp to D. And then we go up to E flat to E. And so on and so forth, all the way up as high as you want to go. Generally I go B to a high C, but if you're a student and learning, go up to where it's comfortable for you. So sometimes I get students to stop at a G above C, maybe go up to an A until you're feeling comfortable. So the important thing is to always feel in the finish in the low register. Okay, so after long tones, it's important to work on your scales. So it's up to you what pattern you want to do. I always like to have a roster of about 3 or 4 different scale patterns so that I can change them in my routine so I don't get too bored. The one that I'm working on at the moment, I got from a trumpet player friend of mine. And I'll play it for you once. Try and listen to it, see if you can remember what it is. It's a little bit complicated. I'll do it on F major. So it's kind of going up to the 5th and then always going up a note further. Then when we get to the tonic, we come back down, and then at the end we go all the way up, over the tonic and back down again. I find that's a really good exercise. So I'll do it again in G major. And once you get good at this exercise, it's really, if you think about it in a musical context, I find it really helpful for thinking about Mozart concerti, stuff like this, because you're really working on the explosive nature of the scales starting early. And then if you also work on this, you can get all your scales done in 8 minutes. Not a bad deal. So I'll start on G major for you. And so on and so forth. So I generally start on B flat so that I'm going up to a high C, and then work down chromatically so that I finish on B natural and get all my scales done. I'll just do one more for you, E flat, just so that you can hear that pattern one more time. And also I like to finish on a low note as well, just to loosen the chops up first thing in the morning. Okay, so scales, and now we move on to the last part of my daily warm-up, and that is some flexibility. I always like to base this on Farkas flexibility and tailor it for my own needs. So as I'm a high horn player, I like to get things nice and loose in the upper register as early as I can in the day. But I don't like to push it too hard too soon. So I'm going to do it all on F horn, start on C above middle C, and just play a very simple pattern and try and make it as lyrical and as smooth as possible. Just to make myself remember what it feels like to play smoothly and musically in the upper register. And down a semitone. it just one step further. And I try and put in the tonic on the top, so we're going up, opening up our high range, and then always trying to finish down low. You'll pick up a pattern from my warm-up. It's always good to finish in the lower register so that you're never feeling stiff at the end of your warm-up. Always focusing on playing as musically as possible, as lyrically as possible. Interesting. Okay, if anyone's got any questions or anything like that, feel free to type them up and I'll try and answer them. Okay, so I like to work through a few different exercises. So, you know, do your version of Farkas, anything you want to do. I always like to then finish with low register stuff and try and make it sound like an excerpt. So for me, I start on the pedal register and I finish on the third, and then I take a breath and try and make it sound something like Heldenleben. Sorry, question. Absolutely, yes, definitely. You can apply this to trumpet as well. A lot of my warm-ups actually have come from trumpet players, so I'd love it if a trumpet player took on some of mine. I'll just do that one more time. Now take a breath and try and play it in the same pattern as Heldenleben. And so on and so forth. I always do that down to A flat. Okay, well, that's been a very abridged version of what my daily warm-up is. If you do it full on and full out, it generally takes me between 35 to 40 minutes. And that's a great way to start the day. So just to wrap it up, this is what my warm-up looks like. I always start with some kind of breathing and buzzing exercise just to wake everything up. Then I move on to an easy flow exercise, middle register, concentrating on being as smooth as possible and lyrical as possible. And then always some long tones. And then generally always some scales. And then always some flexibility. If you're having one of those days where you're running late or there's been a really bad traffic jam and you get to work or school too late, then I pretty much can break it down a little bit more and just do a little bit of one, a fair bit of two, and then sometimes if I'm really late, just do flexibility, and that should be enough to get you through the day. But always try and plan to get a 35 to 40 minute warm-up in. Warm-ups are really important for working on technical things that you need to work on. I generally like to, in my teaching and playing, apply a musical philosophy for getting over technical problems. However, if you are working on a few chop issues or anything like that, then your warm-up is the time of day to do that. And then you can kind of try and forget about it and focus on music for the rest of the day. But if you are doing a small adjustment, then your warm-up is how to do it. How to make the tongue clear? Well, it's a very good question. You've got to really think about where you want the tongue to strike and what kind of an articulation you want to use. Tuckwell always used to talk about using the consonant to T-U. And when you say tu, your tongue goes forward and down, and it's a very efficient movement of your tongue, and the air moves over your tongue very smoothly. So it's tu, 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 tu. And the other thing to do is make sure there's no jaw movement when you articulate. You can put your finger under your jaw, and that's how you get a really nice, clean, crisp articulation. If you notice that you've got any chewing movement going on, that will interrupt your articulation and will also kind of add to chua in your playing, which you kind of want to avoid. Any other questions, feel free to put them up as well. If anybody wants to get in contact after this, I do some online teaching, and that is this website here, online.aons.com/Ben_Jacks. It's a great teaching platform. It's much clearer than Zoom, etc., and it's really easy for us to hear each other. And apart from that, yeah, please jump on, ask me any questions. That's my personal Instagram handle, so come on over. And after this wonderful hostile takeover of David Cooper, but I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. Hi to all my Aussie guys that have tuned in. Good to see you. And thanks to Dave for letting me take over. It's been great. I hope all is well up there in Chicago. Oh, here we go. Oh, thanks, bro. Yeah, great. Any exercises for intonation? Yes, definitely. Absolutely. I'd say the best thing to do is to set a drone on your tuner or your app, and then just do really slow interval exercises with that. So I would set a drone for concert B flat. Can't do it right now because my phone is on. And then just go up very slowly from there. Just making sure that your fourths and fifths are feeling slightly wider, that your major thirds are slightly lower, and so on and so forth, so that you're getting really used to where your intonation on your horn fits, so that you know if you need to adjust specific notes, for example. All right, well, thanks for having me. See you guys in the Northern Hemisphere some other time. Bye for now.